Hey, that's pretty bad. It's not all the way bad, because the Celtics are the better team. They're one of the best teams in the league, but also just the Raptors keep losing. And you can't stomach that kind of stuff for too long, especially since there was hope, since it seems to spring eternal after the trade, but that just hasn't been the case. To join me to talk about that game, Celtics versus Raptors, 105 for the Celtics, 96 for the Raptors, is our Celtics delegate, our Wizards delegate, Baker. Baker, how you doing? First thoughts after that game?
Well, I'm doing well. Thank you for asking, Samson. And
Yeah,
first thoughts of this game, uh, very, very ugly, to start and probably to finish as well. But
grimy.
a very grimy game. But a very, very good win for Boston. I thought defensively was really the calling card for this game.
Totally.
Just switching up the coverages, going from zone to man, from man to zone, really just putting the Raptors half court offense in flux. And that was kind of what turned the tide in this game. Offensively, they were okay. They were able to just get by, 16 to 39 from three will definitely help. And
Mm-hmm.
all five of your starters in double figures. Yeah, so it was a very grimy game. Credit for the Raptors for not giving up. There are certain stretches of that game where it could have got out of hand, but they kind of buckled down, forced some turnovers, got themselves back in this game. But a good win for Boston.
Can you kind of
Um,
walk me through as far as, the zone with Drew Holiday in the middle, why you thought that was effective in this game?
is so it's a new wrinkle, obviously, because last year I don't think they played a ton of zone, and this season, especially these past couple weeks, they've kind of just incorporated him in the zone with just him being the free safety, him communicating to everybody, like telling them where to go, and then it's just like it's causing a lot of problems, and it's very weird because you're not used to having a guard in the middle, kind of just you're just like playing free safety. Usually it's a wing or a big, but he's so versatile, he's so smart. And the zone definitely worked today. It got the Raptors
Yep.
out of their comfort zone. A lot of, hesitancy, whether to shoot, whether to pass. And in that third quarter when I thought Boston came out flat, I thought their defense really, really buckled down, and that zone really helped them out to like, come up with this win.
Taco and Nacho Battle Channel says, I'm convinced if Steph played for the Raptors, he'd shoot 34%. A quick stat for anybody. So the Raptors were 4 of 32 on threes tonight. This is via Blake Murphy. This is only the 17th time in NBA history a team shot that poorly on 32 or more threes, and only one team, the Harden era Rockets, has won a game like that ever. It also tops the 6 of 42 against Heat Zone from 2019-20 as worst three-point shooting night in Raptors history. So we're dealing in some unprecedented areas for the Raptors. And what we just talked about, that zone is kind of a big deal for that because they got to play the zone a bunch. Playing Drew in the middle is a great way to quarterback, to pressure the ball handling of bigs who catch in the middle of the zone, and to also make sure that for the Raptors, who are playing like a couple small guards in Dennis and IQ, if they want to enter the ball middle, they have larger players on them on the perimeter. This makes everything feel more crowded. This makes those like middle entry passes way more difficult. The bounce pass isn't as accessible as you might think it is because it's not a big in the middle of the zone. It's Drew Holiday hunting that bounce. He can kind of shoot the gap if that happens. He can pressure the catch of like Scotty or Pascal in the middle. And so all that stuff is happening when they go middle. And then obviously just I think IQ and Dennis had a tough time finding, especially Pascal and Scotty in the middle. And then on top of that, too, you have an uncharacteristic night from both Scotty and Pascal. And Pascal, obviously, the biggest deal is that, he goes 0 of 6 from downtown. He had, I think he was 30 of his last 58 from downtown. So on a really hot shooting streak over 18 games, he goes 0 for 6 tonight. Couple rimmed out, but some really bad misses. And even within that, too, a couple of those faders in the middle of the court that he typically can hit a few of. We saw there's been games against the Celtics where he's hit a lot of those. That's been the bread and butter of their offense, especially in clutch time. He didn't really make those. Scotty unfortunately left stuff on the rim too. So the Raptors are relying largely on like Emanuel Quickley shot making, RJ Barrett shot making, and Dennis Schroeder knifing into the lane towards the end. But they aren't able to rely on Pascal and Scotty to kind of lift them out of the doldrums. 17 for Pascal, 10 for Scotty, 4 assists for Pascal, 2 for Scotty. That's tough. I know that's the meme, is that I say that's tough, but Baker, like, what were your thoughts from the other side of the court? Are you like, hell yeah, we're locking these dudes up?
Yeah, I thought the defense today was like exceptional. Especially because offensively they weren't able to get it going like they usually do. Missing Jaylen Brown, he's really the tone setter of this team. He kind of gets like in the first quarter and the third quarter, he kind of just hunts his own shot, he gets it going, and then everybody just kind of just picks it up from there. But not having him today, it kind of like had the offense in a bit of a stall. But luckily, Derek White, Drew Holiday, those guys are just so good. Like,
Yep.
they're just like able to just
That
um,
is the third game in a row that Derek White has been like the Grim Reaper down the stretch against the Raptors.
yeah,
He
big
he
shot.
hit the game winner in the other one, and
Yeah,
he hit the 3 in the corner where the Raptors messed up their coverage
yeah,
in the play-in tournament game, the Raptors' first one they played. And in this game too, he banged that corner 3.
yeah.
This guy,
It's just and
it-
he's just money, man. And also the game in Boston, he hits the step back three. That was kind of like a little like, you could say it was a little lucky, but he had some clutch buckets down that game too. So he's been very good for this team. Drew Holiday, probably one of his best games of the season. Both
yep.
offensively and defensively. When the Raptors made their runs, he made a lot of big shots. Hitting crucial threes. And then,
He made as many threes as the Raptors.
yeah,
Daggum.
yeah,
Like that's
exactly. So just having a backcourt as reliable as those two is very it's a big blessing because when Jason Tatum has like a seven shoots goes 7 for 19, and Kristaps Porzingis only takes 6 shots. Like that's just like, and you can lean on those two guys to pick up the scoring load. Like that's a very big thing to lean on, and it's very nice to have. But yeah, I credit their defense. I think this was a very much defensive minded game from start to finish. Because
yep.
obviously their offense was
On
not
both
like
sides.
was not clicking at all today. So credit to them for locking down the
Yeah.
floor. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, there's a comment from Lil Yo-Yo that says, "Do you think tonight was more about dead legs of the Raptors, or the Raptors just can't shoot or tired?" I think that the Raptors have been overperforming their jump shots a little bit lately because you're getting like Pascal Siakam is not a 9% shooter like during his worst stretch this season, but he's not a 60% three-point shooter like 30 for 58, which is a huge run. That's
Yeah,
like almost, that's like a quarter, a fifth of the season almost of a sample size. It's a really big run, good for him, but he's not that level of shooter. By the end of the season, maybe he's hanging around like 34, 35%. RJ Barrett, maybe like 36, 37. They were getting like 50+% from these guys over the last handful of games. But you also, in this game, as we talked about with the zone and also playing a lot of gapping in the in-between during like these man possessions, you have Pascal and Scotty having a tough time navigating that middle area. You're not getting the regular points you get out of the mid range. The stuff that they usually get at the rim is not coming as frequently. So they didn't have that backup, that counter as a salve in this game. So, Mel says Pascal is checked out. That's a comment here. I think this is just like bad shooting. I think
yeah,
Pascal, like actually, I've said on the last however many podcasts that Pascal, his low man defense has actually been really toothless for a lot of games so far this season. But I thought defensively, like he did well enough in this game. He was part of good defensive units. The Raptors as a whole, I think, actually played very impressive defense tonight. So I don't think he's checked out because he didn't shoot well from the floor. The same way that I don't think Scotty's checked out because he only scored 10 points. I think sometimes, the shots don't drop in. Now, there's other indicators that everybody can keep looking for, but I don't think that there's a strong correlation there. Defensively, I think that the Raptors did a really good job of making it tough on the Celtics. I think they had a really good mix of the coverages that they threw at Jason Tatum 7 for 19 is nothing that Jason Tatum doesn't want to talk about this game. He had the 2 big dunks, and those, like,
Yeah,
the one is off of, like, RJ Barrett gets caught up on a screen, right? The other one, he gets past Pascal Siakam in isolation on the wing. And, like, the 2 big dunks, they punctuate. And so you're like, damn, he's going off. But he scored 19 points. And Baker just popped out of the chat. So for anything else, welcome back, Baker. But Tatum only scored 19 points. And when you look at Derek White as well, Derek White is 7 for 18 overall, 5 of 11 from 3. He couldn't get anything inside the arc. I thought that the Raptors as a whole, they rotated to the ball pretty quickly. They put a lot of help out there, and they protected the paint as best they could. But the bad part about that is, like, if Drew Holiday and Derek White are going to be banging threes, then there you go.
yeah. So
That's not so great.
they threw a lot of double teams, a lot of traps, um, at Tatum, Porzingis. I got Porzingis out of his game a little bit. He had 6 turnovers, so they were able to just discombobulate him a little bit. And I thought Tatum had like I thought this wasn't one of his best games, but I felt like that third quarter when it started to get away from them a little bit, he kind of settled in. He had those 2 dunks, he had a layup, and he kind of was able to get by Chris Boucher, nice dump off pass to Luke Cornett.
Yep.
That little stretch got their offense flowing, and it kind of just reinvigorated the defense a little bit because from the 6 minute period to the end of the third, like the Raptors didn't score a point. So it's small stretches that he was able to display his brilliance, but yeah, the Raptors did a really good job, defending him, you know, getting him out of his comfort zone, sending traps, and also Porzingis only 6 shots today, but he was able to get to the line a lot. So overall, they played a really good defensive game. It's just their offense was very anemic, and especially in the second half. So
Yep.
yeah, this is a very defensive minded game. This is probably the best game the Raptors have played defensively in a while. Um, because because like they haven't really been buckling down on the road
Mm-hmm.
trip and even before the trade. So this is probably their best defensive effort so far.
Yeah. This is just to reiterate something I said at the top of the podcast. Coco says we're also a less than 500 team playing a team at the top of the league. Yeah. Like the Celtics are the better team. If the Raptors won this game, that would have been massive, even without
Yeah.
Jaylen Brown, because also the Raptors are missing Jakob Poeltl and Gary Trent Jr. And Jakob Poeltl obviously helps with a lot of defense, and some of that stuff on the inside, like the zone, may not have worked as effectively. Being able to go to Jakob Poeltl in the zone, then work more high lows off of him, because then he's a lot bigger. It's going to be tougher for Drew to bother him up top because he doesn't have to put the ball down low. There's like different avenues that they could have gone there, but also Jaylen Brown, the way that the Raptors were rotating so heavily towards guys on ball and trying to get back off of it, he could have made a killing as well. I know sometimes he can be like he can catch and hold, but he can also like make a killing when the defense is tilted away from him. This Raptors team, now 3-5 since the trade, was originally 3-1, has lost 4 in a row. The last game was the evil pizza party. People are still looking for this singular, like, positive pizza party. But I want to talk about something positive as we've been, you've been positive for the Celtics, but we're going to talk positive for the Raptors. RJ Barrett, let's do it, man. What do you think?
And
You've seen a lot of him on the Knicks. What do you think about him on the Raptors?
he's played really well, man. He's played a lot better than I would think because the end of his Knicks stint, he wasn't really playing his best ball. He started well during in the beginning of the year, but he wasn't able to just find that consistency like he did in the first like cut 10 to 15 games. But today if he hits like maybe if he goes maybe 2 for 4 in this game from three instead of 0 for 4, like this is a really good game, and they probably are in position to win this game or at least make it a little bit more interesting. So he's attacking the rim really well. He's getting to the left hand whenever he wants.
Yeah.
The mid range is there. Just around the rim, he's been really good. And I thought defensively, he had his moments today. as well. So it's a very he's been very comfortable to start, and maybe because he's home, maybe because he's home, he's eating Osmos out in Toronto. But yeah, he's been really good, that and also you didn't mention him, but Emmanuel Quickley's been really good too.
Yep.
So this trade has looked very positively, even though you give up like OG, but he's been way better than I thought, and I think moving forward he's going to be very, very good.
10 made shots in the paint tonight.
Yeah.
This is kind of the thing. Like I see in the chat, people are talking about, RJ being inconsistent in the past, all that kind of stuff. But the thing that's a little bit different about RJ currently is that, and you can appeal to, I'll be doing the Strickland podcast with, it's like a Knicks, they cover the Knicks over there later on this week. But Knicks fans say like, oh, we haven't seen this from RJ before. Like the current stretch he's having, yes, he's had inconsistent runs of play, good stretches, but a lot of that was tied to his 3-point shooting. The fact that he can go out there and have like 24 points on 19 shots in a game like this because he's getting into the lane with a live dribble, because he's cutting off the ball actively, because he's making good reads off of second side actions, and he's making stuff at the rim, I think is a huge indicator like that this is positive progression because of some shot making, sure, but also because of decision making that elevates his skills. I've talked about this on many podcasts so far, but a guy who seems to have like a real finishing package, who has strength for sure and can get to the rim with a live dribble, but just isn't finishing there, has been below average every year of his career. How do you think you can make those things elevate with a role change and a context change? And he's just been phenomenal. Somebody made the joke that they said RJ Barrett, number one option. I mean, when I looked at, granted, it's been 3 or 2 games since I put out the touches and usage percentages, but as far as touches on the Raptors since the trade, 2 games ago, it went Scotty, IQ, Dennis, Jakob, Pascal, RJ. Neither Pascal or RJ have had that much of the ball. Pascal had a decent amount. RJ had a decent amount tonight, but like they're just taking advantage of when they get it a lot recently. And with Pascal, that was happening before the trade happened. And with RJ, it obviously just happened after the trade. We can't talk about him on the Raptors until he's there. He's been so impressive in the decisions he makes, like especially when the Celtics are stunting, and stunts affect me as a player. Stunts affect NBA players. It's like a guy is suddenly like filling the gap where you wanted to attack. And RJ is like making the right read when, hey, I have a live dribble. A guy filled the lane. Okay, I have to pull it out, reset. Or there's a guy leaning. He looks like he's going to be there, but maybe it's a stunt. And he's saying, like, I'm going to test it. And he just blows through him. Like, if you want to get in the way of RJ, you have to come with conviction. And that's been really impressive, is that like since teams are more in tune to Scotty and Pascal, the back end guys, they're kind of like, okay, and even Emanuel Quickley, right? They're like, okay, we're going to see what happens. But RJ is like, you got to meet me with the same conviction you'd meet a number one option. I might not be a number one option in the NBA, but I'm going to bring it to you like I'm trying to score every possession. So that is like extremely impressive. And the decision making to me has been perfect. Pascal Siakam, you saw a bad game. I'm curious where you are on him and just overall, Pascal, what you think happens at the trade deadline, all that good stuff.
Not his best game today.
No.
The jump shot wasn't going at all. He kind of, all the shots that he usually makes, they kind of just rimmed out today. He had a couple like turnarounds at the free throw line where like he usually makes them, but like they just kind of just rimmed out. But he had a lot of good looks today. They just didn't go his way. So a very rough game for him, but nothing to worry about, honestly. He's still very good. But overall, I'm curious to see like where they trade him, because there are reports that they're gonna definitely move him before the deadline. So I'm interested to see like where he goes, and what they get back for him. But it's tough, losing a player like that, and you're probably not gonna get like the requisite value that he should get. because he is on an expiring, and there is uncertainty whether he'd resign in his new location. So yeah, it's a tough situation, letting a player like that go. And you're probably gonna let him go for like not full market value than what he's
Sure.
really worth. So he's still really good. He's gonna help whatever team he lands on, because he provides such a need on both ends of the floor that teams could use depth for sure. And but yeah, it's very tough, because like if they had handled this situation like any differently, maybe like he's still on the team, or maybe instead of like 60 cents on the dollar, you're probably getting adequate to fair value for him if you do end up trading him.
Sure. And an interesting comment from Abu, who says 1 foot out the door, not even pretending to defend at this point. I think this is interesting because I think like the half court performance from the Celtics in this game was really poor. The Raptors had a really good defensive
Yeah,
game, and Pascal had good like defending sessions in isolation. He was playing against Porzingis. He made contact early. Porzingis didn't have a big rebounding game, and Pascal was mostly in the right spots as a rotational guy. I don't think this is the correct stance from this game. Now, I've talked about in a lot of my coverage about Pascal's waning effort defensively, but I actually thought Pascal was quite good defensively tonight, as was most of the Raptors. Because again, the Celtics are a really good team, and the Raptors played really strong half court offense. Now, some of the transition stuff was a little bit tough, and that's a little bit juiced because of Drew Holiday banging threes late in the game. But I think like the half court stuff, outside of like carrying the narrative, like I've heard this thing about this player, I'm going to say it. I think that like Pascal and the Raptors, they played some pretty damn good basketball. Now, of course, like, Scotty got beat in isolation by Jason, Boucher got beat, Pascal got beat, RJ gets stuck on a screen. Jason Tatum is incredible. He's going to wriggle through a few times.
yeah,
And yeah, I know people are caught up on some talking points, but I think like the reason why the Raptors lost this game, and if you were wanting to blame Pascal, you can look at the 0 for 6 from 3 and say we needed a better shooting performance. But the effort stuff and that kind of stuff, it does not sit on the defensive end of the floor. They brought their lunch pail in this game, like up and down the roster. Jonte Porter, it wasn't his best game, and he was overmatched, but he brought his lunch pail. Same thing with
yeah,
that. Same thing with Scotty. Same thing with Pascal. Like everyone up and down the roster,
yeah.
they
They,
brought
they
it.
just, yeah,
They
they
just
just, yeah, it's
they
just,
also shot the lunch pail.
yeah,
Just like
yeah,
it was tough, man.
yeah. If you're losing the 3-point battle by like minus 36, then like you're not gonna win many games.
Where are you trying to make up that point differential? Like in your mind, where do you go? And you know what's kind of funny? They also lost the free throw battle by 7 as well.
Yeah,
It's just like, there you go, man.
yeah.
Um, yeah, just let's talk about quickly since I have you here.
Mhm.
You said he had a good game. You've been impressed. It was like a bit of a volume shooting game, but the Raptors clearly you scored 96 points. You're trying to get offense as often and from as many places you can possibly muster. What did you think about his response against like a Celtics defense that I think does a really good job of funneling guards, does a really good job of like paying attention to guards off ball? What are your thoughts on his performance?
I thought he was very hold on, just yeah, I thought it, even though like he put up a lot of shots today. I thought he was aggressive. He got to even the shots that he missed, they were very good looks. I think he had a three on the right wing. He was like wide open. He just missed. No, that was a lot of the shots that the
Yeah,
Raptors
yeah.
took today. It was a lot of shots that the Raptors took today that they could have easily made. But overall, he's just being aggressive. He's getting a lot more opportunity on Toronto. So yeah, even though like the game itself, it's 8 for 20, 2 for 7 from three, but I thought he was aggressive. In transition, I thought he got out and ran very well, and he's just a weapon to use. Like if somebody collapses the defense and he's wide open for three, like that's like something that they haven't really had this season. So like now they have somebody able to like take advantage of of the advantages that Scotty and Pascal can create, and just having those play finishers like RJ and IQ, like it's a very big thing. That's why their offense has like jumped incredibly since the trade. And they're shooting the ball well, they're getting good shots. Even today, like when the shots weren't even falling, I thought today they generated a lot of good shots, and they just didn't fall today. So he had a good game. Surely you would like the efficiency to be better, but at the same time, not everybody's making enough shots as it is. So you kind of have to sacrifice a little bit in volume.
There's a, I think I have to go to my Twitter to find it and credit the person properly. But there is something happening with these Raptors, and it constantly happens with teams that aren't very good. So it's from Jason Hudson. Says they just do not fail to disappoint every night. We get glimpses, but nothing ever sticks. We're also missing leadership on the court. Too many passive guys. I don't know as much about the passive guys, but as far as like mentioning, like we're getting glimpses, but things aren't really sticking. On a game where you manage to buckle down and play some defense, the shooting doesn't translate. And on the nights where when guys are banging threes and you have it going, you can't buckle down. Like you can look at a game like this at the end and you can throw your hands up and say, nobody's going to win this game if you shoot that bad from three. And you can say that. And in a vacuum, that's a perfectly fine stance to take. But as far as the fourth loss in a row, you're looking to find an identity and nothing really sticks game to game. And, the hallmark of a good team is being able to win a lot of different ways. The hallmark of a bad team is being able to lose a lot of different ways. Raptors fans, are well aware of what a really good team looks like. They just saw it in the Celtics, but you've also seen it in the recent past with these Raptors. It's Phoenix Plays E says this team isn't talented at the end of the day. I think they're better. They're more talented than their record. I think they're underperforming it, but also they're not a super talented team. They have to find an identity. They have to be cohesive. They have to work in lockstep and in unison with one another. And they're just not able to bring it night to night. The flashes are what you have to hold on to. And those flashes, mostly for the future, reside with Emanuel Quickley, Scotty Barnes, RJ Barrett, Pascal Siakam. We'll see what happens with him. I had a long discussion with Lewis on the last Raptors Weekly podcast. And, I came away from it saying, like, I think probably the best case scenario for the Raptors is that Pascal is traded somewhere where he has a chance and that the Raptors get stuff back that they like. I don't know exactly how that shakes out, but that seems like the optimal outcome currently. And then the Raptors have the flexibility to try and build a team around Scotty and IQ going forward. And RJ, who has been so good that he makes you consider, like he's no longer just like a starter, but you say like, man, could this guy be a linchpin moving forward? That's the kind of thing. So it's been tough. They are not able to get consistent effort every spot on the floor every night. On a night like this, you want to say, well, hey, they managed to do it. They competed against the Celtics, and maybe they come out next game and bring that defense again, and then they hit the triples. But it just as easily could be that they hit some triples and they defend like terrible again. That's it's tough,
Yeah,
man.
yeah, it's very tough. It's the inconsistencies over and over, since last year even, like there are stretches where like, the defense is good, but they can't score in the half court. But and like they're hitting every three imaginable, but like they're going on the other end, they're allowing all the any there are a bunch of defensive gaps and guys are hitting wide open shots. Like it's just, it's this and that, it's the other and this and but like they haven't been able to just string both components, for a stretch of games. And for a while, they've been trying to just win on offense lately, like try to just outscore teams. And it kind of worked for a little bit, but then like defensively, they're not as sound at the point of attack, and they're allowing guys to just get comfortable on the perimeter and in the paint. So it's tough. If this team could just get what they did today and just just add it to what the success they've had on offense, this is a really good team. But they haven't been able to show that. because they haven't just been able to find out like what is our identity, what is what we want to do every game, like what are we going to lean on when stuff gets tough, and when the games aren't when the shots aren't hitting, or like we're not getting good looks on offense, like what are you going to lean on for your identity? They've kind of struggled to find that. Once this team finds their identity, like I feel like they'll be really good.
Yeah, and an identity that will no doubt revolve around, like at this point, Scotty and Emanuel Quickley, because Pascal Siakam is heavily involved in trade talks.
Yeah.
He's an expiring player, and we'll see what happens. Richard Pilsky says it's going to be a long month with the Siakam trade cloud hanging over us. Certainly, there is a sect that is like looking, wistfully at it and saying like, "Oh, I can't wait till it happens." New era, all that kind of stuff. Don't begrudge anybody. You're allowed to cheer for the team you like. And then there's people who are maybe like saying, well, I wonder if they can make it work with Pascal, all that kind of stuff. He's a franchise icon. Two camps. Well, there's a bunch of camps, but those are the two biggest, I suppose. And if anybody's interested, this is advertisement time. Downtown Toronto, live podcast at Rivoli. Last year we sold it out. You can go to raptorsrepublic.com and get your tickets. Myself and Louis Zatzman will be hosting the panels, but the panels will have a whole bunch of special guests, and we'll be talking February 6th, pre-trade deadline, live podcast. Last year was super awesome, was a total blast. A bunch of people came out, talked basketball amongst themselves, panel, Q&As, all that kind of stuff, and it was really, really fun. And I can't wait to do it again, and that's February 6th for anybody who is interested. This team, man, I really wonder what kind of identity they find.
Yeah.
You look at them, you say, and especially you look back at Scotty at the start of the season. He's been a bit out of sorts defensively, being like put on the point of attack more often lately. And especially like he was awesome on the glass in this game, but he had been averaging less than 4 rebounds a game since the trade had happened. So as far as like that, I feel comfortable saying like Scotty, good defender. Okay. Number one. IQ, I think definitely can be a good defender at the guard position, especially with the on-ball stuff. I feel that way. RJ, I don't think is there yet. Pascal, I don't think has been a good defender lately. We don't know what this team. I think Jakob is a good defender. He's had some ups and downs this season, but we don't really know what it looks like. But if you have a budding star in Scotty at the forward position who can do all the things that we know Scotty can do, he's been the best player on the team so far this year. You have Emanuel Quickley, who isn't like the type of guard who will just get completely run out of a playoff, series, something like that. It's not like he's the world-ending defender, but he won't get run off. That's a really strong place to start. I like that they start there. How do you feel about starting there?
It's just starting with that. It's a good start because you have a guard, who has stretches of good point of attack, flashes, and also can hit shots on the outside, and also has some juice, on pick and roll. Also RJ Barrett, he's not there, he's not OG at the point of attack, but I think, with more years and more training and more experience under his belt, I think he could definitely mold himself into a decent, point of attack defender. And also on offense, he's been very good, just cutting and attacking the basket with his left, and also Scotty Barnes, who's been, amazing this season. If he can if he can take another step, maybe just add a few more wrinkles into his offensive game, and also, be a bit less aggressive at the point of attack, be a little bit more like just give the defenders a little bit of a buffer, try to use your length and athleticism, and don't try to like just press and try to just bother opposing defenders. But it's just so at that point, you have a good mix of, you have a point guard, you have a two, you have a three. I think if you want, I think maybe just adding more adding a lot more spacing around this team could definitely help. And hopefully you think Grady can maybe turn the corner and just provide that, fingers crossed. But uh obviously, the future is definitely bright. If Scotty being good this quickly definitely makes, everything a
Yep.
lot more hopeful because if he's it because year three he's looking like this, who knows what the future is gonna hold for you. So I think just continuing to just add players that fit next to him, IQ and RJ Barrett are two very good pieces that fit around him and fit in his timeline. So
Can I
I,
can I ask you a question specifically from your point of view?
mhm.
Scotty, when he has these quiet games, like 10 points, he had 6 points the other night. From your point of view, because you're watching Boston first. So a Raptors fan is going to look at this game and say, focus on Scotty's point, his POV for this defensive offensive matchup. You're going to look at it from like, what are the Celtics doing to Scotty? Whereas a Raptors fan is going to say, what is Scotty not doing? Like that kind of stuff. What did you find it a case of passiveness? Did you find it uncomfortable in spots? Did you find that he was limited? Did you find that he was passive? What was your point of view?
I thought it was a mix of, just, the zone was kind of just, putting him in flux, kind of making him, should I shoot this? Should I not? And I think it was passiveness a little bit too much, a little bit too. In the last game, it was C ball. Like I'm putting it up, like because like that was the game. I think he had like I think he shot like 15 threes or something. So I think
Seven,
he was
seven for 15. Yeah.
7 for 15. So I feel like this game today he wasn't really being as aggressive as like he was the last game. Just constantly putting pressure on the defense and just constantly hunting his shot, his own shot. And today I thought the Celtics, they actually gave him a lot more attention than they did last game. Especially when he was coming off screens, they were pressing up on him, making sure not allowing a pull up. And even on the threes that he did have, they did a good job just making sure he had no airspace to shoot and just contesting, which is the ultimate sign of respect. He's made a tremendous leap as a 3-point shooter this season. So, um, it's a tough team to get your game
Yep.
off against. Um, they threw a lot of different coverages, a lot of different looks, to everybody, and it just kind of just put the half court offense for the Raptors in a bit of a standstill. So you can't really you can't really like blame him for not being aggressive, because the defense today I thought was very good. But at the same time, you would like him to be more aggressive, but at the same time, he did a lot of good things today. Rebounding, I thought in the shots that he did make, he was very aggressive. And obviously, you're gonna have games. You're not gonna be super consistent every game. You're gonna have like some slow stretches of basketball. So it's not the end of the world. Um, I still believe, no matter what the season is, I think he'd be on my All-Star ballot.
Yeah.
Um,
Big time.
so for sure. And
Are you
yeah,
voting? Have you done it? Because they're
I
coming
have
for you.
I haven't done it yet, but I'll definitely try to
You'll
try to
you'll
do
have
that soon.
some fans. I think he's
Yeah,
definitely worthy of an all-star selection.
for sure.
Phoenix Plays Z says, I can coach a middle school team to bust a zone more effectively than this current Raptors coaching squad. I don't think you could, but I think that there's something here. I've looked at like Nurse. I did this breakdown during the 2021-22 season on for the now, Yahoo Sports. They no longer have a thing up here for Canada. But anyway, I did this video kind of breaking down how the Raptors attack through zones, and a lot of it is just like pin-in screens in the corner or disguised flares. They don't run a ton of cross screens, and I think that's also the case with the Raptors, now under Darko. And I think that cross screens, if you have a ball handler like Emanuel Quickley, can be one of the best ways to initiate and bust a zone, to get into the middle. And honestly, like if you time it correctly, it's like all about timing the drive with the cut, lining those two things up. Where is Drew being pulled from with a live dribble? Where is Porzingis stepping up from? Based on that kind of stuff, you want to have a read, like have a cross screen. If they play like skinny, go wide. And then you create different angles to make that pass to the middle. If they play wide, go skinny, punch directly into the middle of it, start making cuts and see where they respond. One guy, collapse it from each side. There might be a three open. We know they aren't hitting tonight, but at least like that's the process. There's a bit more motion to it. Whereas the Raptors, I think they got stuck in this game above the break a lot of the time, not punching
Ooh,
into the middle. And I
I
understand it. Go ahead.
yeah, I thought like completely like a quick tangent, but like I felt like in that third quarter there was a moment when they were up seven. I think they just got I think they forced another turnover and it's 3-on-1, and they turned and Scotty like instead of going, I think it was maybe IQ on his right side
Scotty in the middle, IQ on the right, Pascal on
and
the
Pascal
left,
on the
three on
left,
one.
and then yeah, and Tatum's kind of predicting he go left on the left side, but and he guesses right. I think that if that's 2 points rather than just a turnover, I think the game completely flips. But they go on the other end, they get 2 points. The Celtics get 2 points and they stop the run. So I felt like that completely changed the momentum in this game. But yeah, keep
That
going.
was that was a strong indicator to me that like Scotty was out of sorts in his read against the Celtics defense, because Scotty, I think, is one of the best open court decision makers in the NBA.
Mhm.
Like he's like Pascal has been a great transition player for years and years and years, but he doesn't like hold a candle to Scotty with a live dribble, because Scotty with a live dribble, the way he pressures the basket with a bit more force than Pascal is like guys will sit on Pascal and try and contest it at the top. But Scotty's going to make you meet his body and he's going to pressure the rim. And if you keep like, pedaling back, he'll put you in it. He's
Yeah,
really strong. And to see like that passiveness and then to bail out and have Jason, who was already leaning out of the lane, to not take it into the rim, I was surprised. And there are also a few other playmaking decisions he made in this game that just ended up in turnovers. Like he had 4 tonight, and I think that's a big indicator that he was out of sorts. Not just the lack of volume as a shooter, but stuff like that showed up, and it was like, damn, tough game for Scotty. Still been the best Raptors player this year, still an all-star, but a game he won't be happy with. And I assume he comes back better than ever, against Miami and Chicago. But we'll see, man. But yeah, back to the zone. I think that the Raptors could stand to try more stuff, but maybe considering Precious is gone, OG's gone, Malachi's gone, RJ and IQ are in. They've practiced twice or 3 times. That's it, I think. They may not have that many things to like. They might not have the structure of the zone that they want to run through, or they might not be that comfortable, especially with Siakam not being there. So there's extenuating circumstances, I guess. But as far as excuses, hey man, you can always find excuses.
yeah.
Andre donates $5, or I don't know if donates is the right word. Andre gifts $5. Thank you, Andre, for supporting the show. Um, I guess we'll see what happens. But another loss. Do you have any final thoughts on this Raptors team and this Celtics game before we get out of here?
On the zone, this might be a good, this might be a good way to, when they watch film tomorrow, because Wednesday they will be playing Miami, who is going to run a lot of, is going to definitely throw out a bunch of zone concepts. So maybe they learn something from this game, kind of just implement those adjustments, because Miami's a heavy zone team as well. So while Boston isn't like a crazy zone team, but to this game might be able to get them ready for what's coming on Wednesday. But other than that, a fun game. 8-0 under Missoula against the Raptors. So it's fun. It's fun that when our chat, it's fun, especially because I'm the lone Celtics fan in our chat. So it's
The
fun.
Raptors, I don't think they've won a game in the Atlantic Division so far this season.
They have it. Yeah, I think the
0 and
broadcast.
10. 0 and
Yeah,
10.
yeah, the broadcast said they were 0-9 coming into this game, so 0-10 now. Sheesh,
That's
that's very
nasty.
that's very bad.
This
Consider,
team, they used to run the Atlantic Division, man, for a
yeah,
long time.
they
They
did.
they got a lot of banners that they don't end up hanging. But like,
Yeah,
good lord, 0 and 10.
0-10 is very bad. Yeah, Missoula's 8-0 against this team in his tenure. I think which is pretty crazy to see. But
Well, your Celtics are 11 and 1 in the division.
yeah, I think their only loss was to Philly. That was like early.
Yep,
So yeah,
right.
and but yeah, it's nice to get a win against the Raptors. Our buddy
Another
Trayvon,
one.
our buddy Trey, He guaranteed a
Call
victory
call him
today.
Trev. Call him Trev.
Trev, he guaranteed a win today. So
Did he?
I wasn't able to respond to that, but but yeah, sorry,
Wow.
sorry Trey, sorry about that, man.
Maybe you can get him to give you, like, we're doing a pull up Trey episode this week. Maybe you can get him to give you an apology or something like that. You'll have to haggle him.
Nah,
Wow. He
uh,
guaranteed a win tonight?
yeah, he said we're gonna win. Yeah, I'm sure it's in the chat somewhere.
Hmm.
It's in the chat somewhere, but yeah,
Interesting.
I don't want to leak too much information. I don't want to.
Right. Yeah. No, it wasn't me.
Wasn't me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Baker, thank you very much for hopping on. It's been an absolute blast. Correct me if I'm wrong, but your Twitter is BakerFresh35 off the
Yeah.
dome. If
Hmm.
anybody wants to follow Baker for insights on Twitter, some about the Raptors, more about the Celtics and Wizards, but lots of stuff about the Raptors and NBA at large, BakerFresh35. For myself, the best thing you can possibly do is just subscribe to Raptors Republic. Come hang out at the live show February 6th. It should be an absolute blast. And like the video right now, as you're sitting here watching and listening, it's totally free. It takes no time. It helps suggest this conversation to other people, helps grow the channel, etc. for free. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I think that's about it. Joe Tully. Oh, go ahead, Baker.
One more thing. Shout out Samson. Shout out our buddy Espandier Berahini. Shout out Trayvon Heath. Business mogul. Up and coming journalist. Makai Bruce. Um, Shout out Hoop Goose. That's our best friend. Shout out Tim. Shout out Josh Codenera. Shout out all you guys. I love you guys.
Yeah, big shout out. Joe Tully has a question about Darko's use of the lineup in spite of the short bench. I will talk about that next game. If it happens again, I'll include this as well, but we're getting out of here. Baker, thanks for giving all the lovely shout outs, ingratiating yourself further with the friend group. To everybody listening, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed Baker's outside looking in presence. I certainly do. It's much easier to talk about these types of games when I'm not sitting by myself being like, damn, they shot 4 for 32 from 3. That's crazy. From myself and Baker, thank you to everybody for listening. Thank you for being so kind and insightful in chat. And whether you got into this in the morning or at night, have a blessed day and goodbye.